This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And welcome into the Primetime Podcast here on Most Valuable Podcast. Thank you guys for joining us, whether you are doing so on Blog Talk Radio or if you are listening to us on YouTube. We got a great show this week, Brandon, but this week in college football was kind of, I don't want to say a boring week, but after all the upsets we had 2 weeks ago, this one was like, let's just stay to the plan. Stay to the plan. Nothing's going to change. All the teams that are supposed to win are going to win.
I think that pretty much happened all the way down the line, except for probably the first significant game of the week, which is when Houston beat Louisville 36-10.
Oh, you're telling me the game where Dave Oster, who is friends with all of us, is like, well, I called that game. I called it. No, you didn't. You told me beforehand, just put me down for all the upsets. So you can't say you called it if you're just picking upsets to pick upsets.
That's how Dave calls it, though. That's how he's able to say he called it on a lot of different games.
And we know Dave. If he somehow gets it right, even if he didn't directly call it, he's going to take credit for it.
Big time. Oh, yeah.
We got a jam-packed show for you guys. We're going to be talking about the Texas Longhorns firing Charlie Strong, or I thought that's what happened.
I thought he was gone last night. He's still there.
What happened.
And sounds like they're waiting until the season's over to evaluate everybody.
Man, we're going to dive in.
So what's going on there?
We're going to dive into that whole situation. We're also going to take a look at the Michigan-Ohio State game and how that could have implications on both the college football playoff and the Big Ten title game that will obviously implications for the playoff too. And then we're going to look into Oklahoma, and Brandon will share a little snippet of information that he shared to both Sean and I on his Twitter today about the Oklahoma Sooners and their college football playoff chances as we get to the end of the season. But Brandon, we're going to start in Austin with the Longhorns, and like we mentioned, this was a kind of sticky situation where it was like, yesterday I saw breaking Charlie Strong fired on my phone, and I thought right away, boom, that's the first topic. This is the first topic that we talk about today. And then I kind of heard like, oh, well, he's fired, but he's going to finish out the season. Then I heard, no, he's not fired. We're going to evaluate him at the end of the year. What do you think is going on in Austin right now?
I'll tell you what, I don't know, and I don't think they know. I think that's the problem, is that there's so much uncertainty, is that the fact that the media is coming out and saying this, someone within the Texas Longhorn organization obviously is leaking to the media something's happening. But then when you have the athletic director come out and say, no, we are waiting until the end of the season to evaluate the entire coaching staff, that's a big problem. It's a big issue. And that means that you got some problems within your organization. Somebody's doing it, whether it's coaches, whether it's staff members. Somebody is doing this, and that's a big problem. And I think that it's a problem that you need to go away really quickly. But the thing is, though, is that poor Charlie Strong. Then has he been successful at Texas? No, he's not. He's not been successful at Texas.
No, he hasn't. I mean,
come on. You can't, just because you think he's a good guy, you cannot say that he's been successful. He has a losing record.
That's what I was looking at. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, has he done good things? Yes, but when you look at 16 of 20 and 12 of 14 in the Big 12, you can't say that he's done a good job.
He's got a really good group of guys that support him. So he has done something very well. He has been there for his players. He has been there for them. And they are now there for him. But unfortunately, so many times players cannot save a coach. And they won't. If there is a decision that needs to be made, it will be made. And the reason being is because who are the people that ultimately pull the strings? I think
the higher-ups.
The alumni. The alumni that will pay the big money and that will not pay the big money if things aren't happening the way they want it to be happening. That's who I think ultimately is going to be pulling the strings. It's those big-time boosters that they want to keep happy there in Texas or anywhere. in any program. But right now, Charlie Strong is probably not the guy that they want because there's been no consistent winning, just consistent mediocre to poor seasons. And that's got to change. And I think that, unfortunately, Charlie Strong, as good of a guy as he may be, his record it's not going to save him. It's not going to save him, and his good personality will also not save him because the record is so poor.
Well, and I mean, the first thing I want to touch on is kind of like what you mentioned at the beginning. Obviously, there's a problem here. If the media gets word that, A, they're going to fire Charlie Strong, of course, the ink is going to hit the paper. Papers are hitting the presses. Well, now it's more like the posts are hitting the internet. And it's one of those things where I immediately think of, after everything that went down today with the, oh, well, no, that's not true, we're going to reevaluate, me being the kind of person that I am and kind of thinking like, okay, what could be going on? To me, either one of two things is going on. Either you have somebody in that discussion in the room where they're making the decision, leaking the information that is coming out, or on the flip side, in that discussion, there are two sides. There are the keep Charlie Strong camp and the fire Charlie Strong camp. And maybe the fire Charlie Strong camp said, hey, if we leak it and we say that we're going to fire him, it's going to put the keep Charlie Strong camp in a little bit, or put them in a little bit of hot water, per se, where it's like, oh, well, now what are you going to do? Now, do I want to think that that's happening? No. Do you want to think that somebody is leaking information? No. But my first question is, how did the media get contact of this news? Somebody had to tell them. And the one thing that I do think is happening, and I would put my money on, is they're going to get rid of Charlie Strong at the end of the year. And they wanted to fire him after the Kansas game. But this is probably the conversation that went on. We lost to Kansas? Yeah. Let's fire Charlie. But wait, who's going to coach the rest of the season? Fuck, you're right. Let's keep him on. We'll say we'll reevaluate at the end of the season. Really, they just want to keep him on for the end of the year because they don't want a situation like LSU. LSU was able to do that early in the year because, A, they had Ed Orgeron, who already had that head coaching experience. And this Texas team that we have seen, they're not the strongest mentally. They are a fragile team when it comes to the players. Like the boycotting thing that you've heard about now, where Charlie Strong had to address it in his press conference. We had stuff like this early in the year. We had stuff like this like game 2 into the year with this team. So to me, I think the question needs to be pointed at who's at fault here over these 3 years. Is it Charlie Strong or is it the Texas Longhorns? Because the Texas Longhorns, to me right now, are kind of like, I'm going to say kind of like the New York Yankees, where you had for the Yankees, you had Joe Torre as your manager for how many years? Once Joe Torre leaves, you get Joe Girardi. Now the Yankees have kind of been not as great as they once were. Same thing with Texas. You lose Mac Brown, you bring in the new guy, Charlie Strong, and the team hasn't been as good as what they were. Are people blaming Joe Girardi in the MLB? No. They're blaming the front office for the moves that they're making. So, to me, I think the discussion needs to be with this is, do you put the blame on Charlie Strong or do you put the blame on the AD at Texas and the Board of Trustees? That's where I think the conversation needs to be.
I put the blame on Mike Perrin, the athletic director at Texas. He came out with a statement that said this, quote, "There are a number of rumors out there about the status of Charlie Strong," Perrin said. Continuing, quote, "I have said it all along. We will evaluate the body of work after the regular season. We have a game to get ready for on Friday, and I hope our fans will come out and support our team. We'll discuss where things stand after that," end quote. Now, Ricky, You gotta listen to the one line I think that's really important. And I hope our fans will come out and support our team. I believe he wants to make it seem that, forget about everything. We want the fans to come out and support us and really come and bring a good base. Why? To sell tickets. Because then, so that he can have this facade that Charlie Strong, he's gonna still be the coach. He's gonna be coaching against TCU. He's gonna be the coach. And then boom, after that, gone. I think it's, maybe I'm reading too much into it, and I probably am, but I almost think it's kind of a, I don't know, I almost think it's kind of a sleazy comment. And I think that he did not directly address the fact that these rumors have come out about Charlie Strong, where'd they come from. He does not talk about that. He does not say that. He does not straightforward say that. And I think that that's a problem. And I think that it's wrong. You've done a disservice to your head coach, and you don't look good. And I think that it's really terrible. I mean, as I read that quote to you, on the right side of the page, it says, "Report: Texas will fire head coach Charlie Strong." I just, the media gets this information and they go with it. And this is SB Nation that they're putting it on. And I feel like it's just such a disservice to Charlie Strong, a guy who has tried while he's been there and has endured a lot of turmoil. And I think that the least that you could do is that if you are going to get rid of him, let him go and let him go with some pride, with some honor, because I think that that's what he's at least given to your program. I think he has tried. The student athletes, there's been some ups and downs with them over his 3 years. But I think for him to still be there, coaching that team, and having reports about him being fired, and then already talking about who they're going to be pursuing, that's wrong. That's so wrong.
Well, and two thoughts that I'm having in my head is to go back to just a real snippet of, to me, in college football, the Texas Longhorns are almost like, it would either be the Longhorns or the Trojans are like the New York Yankees of college football. They have a winning history. They had a great coach in my childhood that was there forever, Mac Brown and Joe Torre. And then also you look at the Longhorns and the Yankees, both have their own television networks. And to me, the Longhorns are a brand. And if the brand isn't popular and isn't winning, it's not making money. It's not good if the brand is losing games and it's down there. And the thing that I'm thinking now is maybe Charlie Strong is the Lane Kiffin to the Texas Longhorns. And I know Lane Kiffin was there 3 full seasons and then left that 4th season at USC, but that's a similar situation. Lane Kiffin comes in after Pete Carroll leaves at USC. He had a little bit better seasons winning-wise than Charlie Strong had at Texas, but the difference there is I feel like recruits wanted to play at USC, not just for Pete Carroll, but because it's USC. Because you're going to LA. You get everything. You get Hollywood just for being there. The Longhorns, the biggest draw that they had was Mac Brown. And I want to go play for Mac Brown because I know with Mac Brown, I have a shot to win the Big 12 and fight for a national title. I mean, he'd been there. With Colt McCoy, they went there, and I know they lost to Alabama, but went there with Colt McCoy, went there with Vince Young. Mac Brown leaves, and I think that the big thing was recruiting, and the brand couldn't pull in recruits for Charlie Strong like it could for a Mac Brown. And I think in this whole situation, Charlie Strong is getting the short end of the stick. However, I think it might be best for Charlie Strong to get fired and go somewhere else. Because the thing that I was looking at today, my biggest issue with this Charlie Strong football team since he went to Texas, never had a consistent quarterback. He never had a consistent quarterback. His first year, it was Swoops. Then Swoops became the backup in 15, and then it was Shane Buechele this year. So they had 3 different starting quarterbacks each and every year, whereas you look at his time at Louisville, he had one guy in Froman who was the quarterback, the upperclassman leader that first year in 2010, but then 2011 through 2013, he had Teddy. He had Teddy Bridgewater. He had a consistent quarterback. So to me, I think it might be better for Charlie Strong, get fired or leave. I mean, that's an option too. If they're going to say, no, we want you back, he could walk away from it. But the better option would be me to just get out of this situation and go somewhere else and go to a team where you can say, okay, to me, it's got to be a team that has no problem bringing in a star quarterback, because that's going to be the right team for Charlie Strong. If he has a strong quarterback that he can rely on, his teams will do well, because he's going to do well recruiting that defensive talent and building that defense. All he needs is that quarterback. That's all he needs. And he had it in Louisville with Teddy. He had it.
I think that you've got a really good point in saying that it's time for Charlie Strong to get out for himself.
Change of scenery.
I think that a change of scenery overall for both parties involved will be good. But I think that, again, there could have been a change of scenery that could have been handled in a very professional manner, whereas this is not. I mean, I think that even once Charlie Strong is gone, which I think I don't think anyone is going to be surprised if Charlie Strong is gone at the end of the season. I think most people would be surprised if he's not, is that once Charlie Strong's gone, I think that leaves questions at the Texas administration of how do you handle your program? How is your program being handled? And how are you going to handle the fallout? Because I think that we're going to see a lot of players be very upset, very angry about Charlie Strong either leaving on his own or being fired at the end of the season. And I just think that Texas has a lot of answering to do to the way that they handle situations. And again, the way that they run their program and how do they want to be viewed going forward? You're not going to be able to be a really, really good program and attract good players if you can't be classy in the way that you do that. And I think that that's a big part, because you're looking at, you want players to come in from everywhere. You want to have the best talent. And you're only going to get the best talent if you can give, I guess, kind of the best in return. And if you don't feel like, if a recruit or a coach doesn't feel like they're going to be respected, if they're going to be felt as though they're getting very good treatment, they're not going to go there. And I think that this just was not a good situation. I don't think this has been a good situation for quite some time, actually. Last year, I think there would be people who would say Charlie Strong should have been fired at the end of last season. I actually would probably agree with those people. I think that he probably should have been gone after last year, because it just didn't seem to be working ever while he was there.
And I don't want that to seem like it's Charlie Strong's fault, because to me, in this whole situation,
I'm not saying that. I want to say that I don't think that I don't want to make it seem like his fault. It's his fault either. But I just felt like with him, that administration, it just didn't ever seem to mesh well. He never seemed like that was the fit for him, and they certainly made it seem like that on the other side.
Well, and the thing that I was getting at, and kind of one of the last things before we ask the last two questions to wrap all of this up, is this isn't, if Charlie Strong gets fired, it's not his fault. To me, I just think that the job was too big for Charlie Strong. And you might be saying, well, Ricky, you're basically saying he's not good enough for the job. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is because of what Texas is, the brand that it has become and the winning tradition behind it, that I'm basically going to put most of it on Mac Brown. Since 1998 all the way till 2013, he's been the guy, and he's created that winning culture at Texas. It's hard to be a coach that long at one spot while having a record of 158-48 at your school and not be kind of considered one of the reasons why you've been successful. I just think this job was too big and it had too much light for Charlie Strong. And going forward, to me, like I said, I would like if Charlie Strong, like his next job, the first school I thought of, and I'm not saying this is going to happen because I don't think this coach is getting fired and I don't think he's moving at all. If UCLA, if their job was open, I'd hire Charlie Strong in a heartbeat because they call themselves linebacker U. Why not bring in the defensive coach? And you have a quarterback like Rosen. I know he's injured right now, but he's coming back next season. Why not have him paired up with Charlie Strong? You've already seen at Louisville what Charlie Strong can do when he can build recruit a defense, and all he needs is that one quarterback recruit that he can rely on. Like I said, I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think Jim Mora gets fired. I don't even think he's on the hot seat. I don't even think that job opens up. But I look at some of the possible jobs that could be open, and I mean, I'm looking at a fan-sided article right now, and they have 5 of them. And the 5 that they have is, first one's Western Michigan. I don't know if I agree with that, only because I don't know if Charlie Strong should try to stick to a Power 5 team or go back to going to a Group of 5 team, because Louisville was a Group of 5 team before he made the move to Texas. They have Western Michigan, Notre Dame, Purdue, Minnesota, and Cincinnati. And the 2 that jump out to me, Brandon, from those 5, Purdue, only because it is a Big Ten team. However, it's a lower Big Ten team. So if you have a 6 and 7 would actually be really good for Purdue. But if you have a bad season that first year, maybe even that second year, as long as you're winning some games, it's better than what a Purdue fan is used to. So you're not going to be on the hot seat that first year. However, that Notre Dame gig, that's a gig to me that could really, if Brian Kelly gets the axe, that's a job where you might be saying, well, Ricky, you're contradicting yourself because you're saying, well, the Texas job was too big for Charlie Strong, yet you're saying the Notre Dame job would be right for him. The only reason I'm saying that is look at the quarterbacks that Notre Dame has had these last few years. Everett Golson, Deshaun Kaiser, Malik Zaire. This is a school that has the opportunity to find those diamond-in-the-rough quarterback recruits to where they could say, hey, we got this guy. We recruited this quarterback recruit. Now let's strengthen that defense. And it could be a good thing for Charlie Strong moving forward.
And now, Ricky, you were talking about the side of Charlie Strong and where he could go. So I want to just say really quickly, last night when this came out, right away, the reporters jumped on a name who could be landing in Texas. And it's your boy, or one of them.
It's not Les Miles, is it?
It's not. It's Tom Herman.
That'd be interesting.
And that'd
be interesting.
That's the name that has kept coming up. I mean, I was looking at all the Texas news articles. Tom Herman's name kept coming up, and they really seem to be getting excited about him. But would he leave the job that he has right now, I think, with a good Houston Cougar team, because I don't think this year, where they ended up this year, that's not where he wants to be with that team. He wants to be able to take that team to the playoffs.
Tom Herman's an interesting one because he, early in the season, we're like, oh, yeah, look at him go. He can go here, he can go there, he can go over there. And now it's more like, oh, well, he could stay put. And if I'm Tom Herman, if I like it at Houston, maybe I'm sitting there going, well, big old middle finger to the Big 12. I ain't going to come to join you because you wouldn't let my boys join you. You wouldn't let us come to the party. Oh, but you want me to come to the party? No, that ain't how it works. You get the whole squad or you get no one at all. That's maybe how it plays out. But to me, I've heard 3 names flown around. Tom Herman, one of them. Les Miles, only because whenever a job opens up, that's a Power 5 team. That's a good Power 5 team. Everyone goes, oh, Les Miles. But another one that they threw out on the Dan Patrick show, that Dan Patrick, his opinion was that he stays where he's at for one more year, then eventually comes back to college, is Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly was a name that they're like, oh, well, does he leave the NFL, a team he's not doing well with right now in the Niners, to come back to college? I'm kind of on the side of DP. Stays one more year with the Niners if they let him. Then if another bad year, fine, go back to college. I really think that once Helfrich is fired, they're going to offer that job right back to Chip Kelly. And I think that's the only job that would be perfect for him. For the Longhorns, they need somebody that's not going to crumble under the pressure, because this is a job where it will break you. It will break you if you are not ready for it. That's why I throw out a Les Miles, because to me, a Les Miles wouldn't crumble under the pressure of, oh my God, I have to succeed. Not saying that Tom Herman would, because Tom Herman has been there with Urban Meyer at Ohio State, and he's had success at Houston, but Charlie Strong hadn't had that success with a Power 5 team. And that's why, to me, Texas is, if they get rid of Charlie Strong, they got to do some thinking. They got to really think long and hard about who they're bringing in, because I will say this, it can't be somebody from a group of 5 that has not had Power 5 experience, because the job would be too big for him. But Todd Herman would be an interesting one, only because he knows the recruiting game, and he'd be able to use that for the Texas Longhorns. But Brandon, before we move on, is there anything that we did not touch with this topic, either Charlie Strong or the Texas Longhorns?
I think we covered it all.
Well, and that's where you guys come in. You guys let us know down below, whether you're on Blog Talk Radio or YouTube. Let us know down below in the comments section what you guys think. What's next for Charlie Strong? What is next for the Texas Longhorns? And what do you think is going to happen? Is he fired? Is he not? Who gives a crap? Let us know down below in the comment section.